The girl hurriedly knocked on the door asking for help, but the woman inside showed no reaction at all. Soon the attacker chased after her, and the two struggled at the door. However, it wasn't until the attacker dealt with the girl that Amy still hadn't noticed. Once confirming that Amy was the only one inside, he quietly hid. Meanwhile, Amy had just opened her computer to start working, when she strangely received a text message from her phone, and to her shock, it was a picture of herself. Realizing something was wrong, she hurriedly ran toward the front door, only to find the attacker lingering outside. Amy's heart tightened immediately, and she quickly rushed to close the door. She then ran to the computer to call the police, but just as she was about to dial, the attacker turned off the power. Seeing that she couldn't call for help, Amy quickly hid in her room and blocked the door with a cabinet. Soon there was a knocking sound coming from the window, and when Amy cautiously went to check, she found the attacker holding the neighbor's corpse, knocking on the glass. This sight immediately crushed Amy's spirit, but in order to survive, Amy quietly moved to a window near the car, and when the attacker wasn't paying attention, she opened a door and pressed the car's key fob, setting off the alarm and drawing the attacker away. Seeing this, Amy hurried back to the room, opened the window and searched the body for a phone, but to her surprise, she couldn't find it. At the same time, the attacker, realizing he had been tricked, returned. In a critical moment, Amy quickly pulled down the window, but the attacker still reached out to stop her. Seeing that the window was about to open, Amy grabbed a hammer from the floor and struck him, successfully closing the window. With no other choice, Amy had to hide back in the room. While the attacker searched the area, she quietly opened the front door to seek help from the neighbor. But just as she ran out, an arrow landed at her feet. Seeing the attacker closing in, Amy had no choice but to return to the room and lock the door. Realizing that the front door was no longer safe, Amy waited while the attacker fixed the crossbow. With the flashlight in hand, she climbed to the roof of the second floor. Since Amy couldn't hear, she had to carefully step on the steel plates to avoid making noise. Then she threw the flashlight into the distant bushes, hoping to draw the attacker away. She carefully approached the ladder, but as soon as she climbed it, she let out a scream. It turned out the attacker had been waiting there for a long time. He raised the crossbow again. Seeing Amy dodge the attack, the attacker quickly climbed the ladder, planning to grab her. But just as his head peeked out, Amy pushed him down, and the arrow was snatched from his hand. Amy tried to use the crossbow to deal with him, but due to her injuries, she couldn't muster enough strength. With no other option, she returned to the room, bandaged her wound, and tried again with the crossbow, but still couldn't draw it. Amy immediately felt hopeless. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. It was the neighbor's boyfriend Jack. Seeing the distress message on Amy's door, Jack immediately decided to call the police. However, the attacker pretended to be an officer and frightened him, claiming that he had been robbed on the way and needed to borrow Jack's phone to call for backup. Although Jack was suspicious, he still lent the attacker his phone, but the next second, an earring fell from the attacker's body. Jack immediately realized something was wrong. The earring was a gift he had given his girlfriend. He quickly claimed that there might be a key under the flower bed, and while the attacker wasn't paying attention, he quietly picked up a stone.